Hey, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another one of my videos. My number one goal is to educate you on how to start and run efficiently a box truck business. So I get asked a lot of questions all the time, and I actually have a link in the description below. You can sign up for a 30-minute or a 1-hour consultation one-on-one with me if you have any specific questions. But I'm going to take questions that I've received over the past 6 months from other people just like you, and I just want to publicly address all of those questions and answers right now in this video. I figured that's the best way. I'm going to take about 20 minutes to go over 10 or 15 questions that people ask me all the time, and I'll give you guys my answers. Like I said, my number one goal is that you all learn something from watching these videos. Another thing, I have a QuickBooks course in the description below. It's only $59. It teaches you everything you need to know about running QuickBooks for your trucking business. With that being said, let's just jump right into it.
Don't wanna sleep in, cause I got something to prove. I gotta take what I hate and finally make a move. I think of you and
the very first question that everybody always asks, and it makes the most sense, what kind of truck should I get? There's a few things that matter the most. First of all, you want to make sure it's a non-CDL box truck. That's huge. If it's a CDL box truck, you're probably not going to be able to drive it unless you have your Class B CDL. So you want to make sure the gross vehicle weight rating, the GVWR, is less than 26,000 pounds. That's so important. Second, you want to make sure your box is at least 24 feet long. Anything less than 24 feet, it's going to be very difficult for you to find loads, traditional box truck loads on the load board. It's possible, but it's very difficult. The difference between 24 feet and 26 feet, let me break it down for you. So a pallet is 4 feet long. So you'll be able to fit 6 pallets on the left side, 6 pallets on the right side. 4 feet long by 4 feet wide. So a typical box truck is 8 feet wide and 26 feet long. So 24 divided by 4 is 6. So you can fit 6 pallets on the left, 6 pallets on the right. But keep in mind, sometimes pallets hang over the edges, over the sides, and also you need to still fit your pallet jack, your dolly, whatever other equipment you have in your truck. So if you have 12 pallets in a 24-foot box, it's going to be tight to fit your pallet jack in with the rest of the pallets. But it's possible, you just have to turn the pallets to their side. So I recommend get a 26-foot truck if you can. That way you don't ever have to worry about turning the pallets on their side, and you can always fit your pallet jack. Okay, so now that you've picked out a 26-foot box, the type of truck that you get doesn't really matter. You can get a Freightliner, International, Hino, you can get a Ford F650. There's a bunch of different types of trucks out there. There's a couple things that do matter. The engine matters. So I've heard some bad things about the Max Force engine from like 2009 to 2013, but I have a Max Force engine 2010 and it's been running for a year and it's been okay so far. So just because you find a Max Force engine, don't give up just yet. The second most important thing behind making sure it's a non-CDL truck is have a mechanic inspect the truck before you buy it. If you buy it from a dealership, make sure it can pass a DOT inspection. But if you're buying it from anybody other than a dealership, make sure you have a mechanic thoroughly inspect it. You want to make sure it can pass a DOT inspection before you buy it from a private seller. Facebook Marketplace has a lot of box trucks. CommercialTruckTrader.com has a lot of box trucks. There's nothing wrong with buying it from a private seller, but make sure you inspect the truck before you buy it. Last thing I'll say about what type of truck to get, don't be afraid of the miles. Diesel engines can run a lot longer than your car can. So you might see a truck with 300,000 miles on it and think, I'm not going to buy that. That's ridiculous. Are you kidding me? Way too many miles. But I've seen trucks, diesel engines go up to 1 million miles. So don't be afraid to buy a truck that has 300,000 miles. It still might have 2 or 3 years. Okay, so are you going to get a new truck or a used truck? A couple pros and cons associated with each one. A used truck is obviously going to be cheaper, but there's going to be more maintenance cost associated with a used truck. Now, a new truck, a few good things about getting a new truck. It's going to be easier to finance because lenders are more likely to give you a loan if the truck is new because as collateral, that's just a more dependable asset. Second, there's going to be less maintenance cost, so less cash out of your pocket every single month on maintenance. Third, less downtime. Just as important as maintenance, you need your truck to be running as often as possible to optimize profit. So if your truck's in the shop once a week, every single month, No one's going to be making money that week. Your driver's going to be upset. Your dispatcher's going to be upset. Your mechanic will be happy, but nobody else will be happy. You're going to lose downtime on an old truck. And lastly, if you are trying to hire drivers, no driver is going to want to drive a 1999 old beat up truck. But if you have a brand new 2022 truck, your driver is going to be a lot more excited about driving that truck. He'll probably stick around, work a little bit harder, and just overall be a happier employee. Another question I get all the time, not only with my trucking clients, but with all the other businesses that I work with: should you have your company be a single member LLC or an S corporation? If you have no idea what I'm talking about, then listen closely, because this is really important. An S corporation is a single member LLC, but it's a special tax election. If you have a single member LLC, there is no difference between you and your business. Whenever you file your taxes, you're still going to file an individual income tax return. Whatever money you pay yourself is not salary, it's not wages. I don't want to get too caught up in the details. I just want to explain the benefits of both. So a single member LLC is going to be much more simple to get started. You're going to have fewer fees. You won't need to run payroll. And whenever you file your taxes, it's going to be very simple. You can file your taxes on your own very easily. Like I said, it's just an individual income tax return. You'll attach what's called a Schedule C to your tax return if you are a single member LLC. If you are an S corporation, you're going to go through extra paperwork to get set up. You're going to pay a payroll company to process your payroll, and your tax filing is going to be more expensive whenever you hire a CPA. It's going to be $600 or $700 to file your taxes as an S corporation. But there are some pretty significant benefits, and I always tell people those benefits come into effect whenever your net income is $80,000 a year. It could be 60, it could be 90, but whenever your net income comes close to $80,000 a year, the tax benefits start to be significant with an S corporation. And I'll try to explain it 30 seconds really simply. As an S corporation, you pay yourself a salary, and then after your salary, you have corporate income for your S corporation. Those two things are taxed differently. You have to pay payroll tax and self-employment tax on your wages, but your corporate income is only taxed at the corporate tax rate. There's a lot that goes into electing to be taxed as an S corporation. Don't worry about it your first 6 months, but as soon as you notice your net income, it gets close to $80,000, start having those conversations with your attorney, with your CPA, and consider electing to be taxed as an S corporation, because you will save money when you file your taxes. How do you find loads for a box truck? Great question. I was naive whenever I got started with an 18-foot box truck. I thought it would be the same. I thought it would be simple, but it's not. So like I said earlier in this video, make sure you get a 26-foot box truck. That's the very first and most important thing. Second, you have a few other options to find loads. Amazon Relay has a lot of great short loads, 100 miles, 200 miles, but you're gonna deadhead to get home. So you might go from your hometown to some other small town 200 miles away, and you're gonna get paid, maybe $3 a mile, and it's gonna be good, but you're not gonna have anything to bring you home. So Amazon Relay is good in a pinch. It's good for new businesses, but I would not rely on Amazon Relay for 12 months after you start. Keep in mind, as a new business, as a new authority, some brokers will not want to work with you. That's why it's good to leverage Amazon the first 30 days, first 3 months, while your authority is still new. Other brokers don't want to work with you, but Amazon will work with you. So it's a good place to start. You have a couple other options. You can dispatch yourself, your own truck, or you can hire a dispatcher to do it for you. If you are a single person operation, you are the only person driving the truck, it's all you, I would dispatch yourself. It's really not that difficult, and you're going to work harder than any other dispatcher would work for you. You're probably going to spend 2, maybe 4 hours a day trying to find loads, all depending on how much money you want to make per mile. If you're willing to take loads for $1.50 a mile, it's gonna be a lot easier to dispatch your truck if you're gonna take loads for no less than $3 a mile. Everybody's situation is different. You just need to find out how much money per mile do you need to make, and by doing that, you'll know how much to book loads for. And you're gonna wanna calculate your cost per mile. So you wanna know how much it costs to operate your truck per mile. That way you know how much to take a load for. Because if it's costing you $2 a mile to run your truck, there's no point in taking a load that's paying anything less than $2 a mile, because you're just gonna lose money by running that truck. So you can dispatch yourself if it's just you. And it works. I hear people do it all the time. But if you're trying to grow your business, if you're trying to be more hands-off and just kind of take an investor high-level approach to running your business, you could hire a dispatcher. That's what I did. So I don't drive my truck. I don't manage the day-to-day operations of my truck. I have a dispatcher who finds me loads, and I pay him 10%, which is a high price, but he does everything for me. He communicates with the brokers, he tells the drivers where to go, he gets the rate com, he sends me the BOL. All I have to do is submit the invoice and pay my driver, and everybody else does everything for me. I want to touch on one thing real quick when it comes to hiring a driver, hiring a dispatcher. Try not to micromanage them too much, especially in the beginning. I was freaking out in the beginning. I was so nervous. If my dispatcher's watching this, he'll probably tell me I get nervous now, even a year after we've been in business. But especially in the beginning, I would just be calling him all the time. I'd be calling my driver. If you're going to hire people to manage your business for you, let them manage your business for you. Try not to get too involved. Learn how to delegate certain tasks. Obviously, you want to manage them, but don't micromanage them. So keep tabs on their performance, but let them run the day-to-day operations. Also, if you're gonna hire a dispatcher, give him more than 2 days to prove himself. He might get you a bad load the very first day. The very first week might be kind of slow, but try to stick with a dispatcher for 2 weeks to give him a fair chance to learn you and your business and your truck and what your expectations are. If he's not working out after 2 weeks, sure, maybe try to find a different dispatcher, but don't jump ship. Don't jump ship after 1 day. Also, don't have 2 dispatchers at once. I don't think that's good for anybody, because then one dispatcher is going to be upset. He's not going to work very hard. He's going to find you a load. You already have one. It's confusing. Just one dispatcher at a time and give him time to prove himself. How do you get paid? Great question. Brokers will pay you. Amazon Relay will pay you directly. Brokers pay in 30 days, and brokers require 3 things in order to get paid: a rate confirmation, a bill of lading, and an invoice. You need to send all 3 of those things directly to your broker. You're gonna get the rate con before you move the load. You're gonna get the BOL once you pick up the load. You're gonna have the receiver sign the BOL, and you keep a signed copy of the BOL. I cannot stress this enough. Whatever you do, do not leave the facility without the signed BOL. It's proof of delivery, and you need it to get paid. Third, you need the invoice. You can use QuickBooks to generate your invoices. There's a million different platforms to generate invoices, or you can use a factoring company. So you can work directly with the brokers and they'll pay you in 30 days, or you can use a factoring company and they'll charge you 3% and they'll pay you immediately. A couple pros and cons to each. I'm not gonna get into it. I talk a lot about my factoring company, but just keep in mind, if you don't use a factoring company, you won't get paid for 30 days. So make sure you have a significant amount of cash saved up if you want to try to cash flow your business without a factoring company. I want to talk about Deadhead. What is it? How is it important? How to avoid it? So Deadhead is the miles you're driving empty. With a box truck, you're gonna have a lot more Deadhead miles than with a semi truck. It's hard to find loads within a 50-mile radius of where you're dropping off, just because the sheer number of box truck loads is a lot lower than traditional semi-truck loads, 53-foot dry van. So with the Deadhead, just keep in mind, you're not gonna be able to avoid it. It's inevitable, but just factor that in to your rate per mile. So if you have to travel 150 miles to pick up something, but it's paying $3 a mile, don't be afraid to drive that Deadhead. Just calculate it in. So take the total miles of the load that you're negotiating, add the Deadhead in, and just tell the broker, hey, with the 150 miles of Deadhead, it's actually only $2.20 a mile. How about, maybe throw on an extra $200 and I'll run it for you. Talking to the broker and having that math and those numbers to back up your negotiation will help you to negotiate a higher rate for your load. And if the broker says no, that's the life of dispatching your truck. You're gonna have to make a lot of phone calls. You're gonna have to talk to a lot of brokers, but you don't wanna go into those conversations blind without any information or knowledge on the true cost of running that load. So make sure you look at the Deadhead, make sure you look at the miles and know exactly how much you're gonna make total for running that load. Insurance is expensive, and you're going to have to pay a couple $1,000s in the very beginning as your down payment. And also, you're going to have to get a lot of the new brokers you work with a new certificate of insurance every time you book a load with them. So the brokers typically ask that they are put on your insurance. It's really easy. It's really easy to get a new certificate of insurance with the broker's name on it. If you have Progressive, you can do it directly from your Progressive login. And if you have a good insurance agent, he or she will most likely be able to get you a new certificate of insurance with that broker's name and address on it. But keep in mind, insurance is one of the highest costs associated with running this box truck business, and it's dependent on your driving record and your credit score and the value of your truck. So save a couple $1,000s in the beginning for the down payment and be prepared to spend $1,000, $1,500 every month on your insurance.
Do what you